Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be walking through a free CAPM practice quiz to help you test your knowledge and build your confidence. Before we dive in, feel free to check out the quiz yourself. There's a link in the video description where you can take the quiz for free. Once you've completed it, come back here and we'll go through each question together, step by step. Let's get started. Once again, and use the link in the description to first take the quiz, and then you can come back and we can go through each question together, or if you so prefer, you can stay right here and you can go through the quiz with me. It's your choice. All right, first question. You're managing a city-wide recycling initiative. A local politician who has shown little interest in your project unexpectedly speaks out against it. Upon analysis, you find that this person has high power but low interest in the project. What should you do next? I'll give you a short while to attempt the question and then I would reveal the answer. You can pause the video here. I will now reveal the answer. So let's take a look and see what the answer to this question is. Here we are saying that you should actively engage and monitor the stakeholder. Why we say that? It is because in the question it says that this stakeholder is a local politician who has shown little interest, so there's little interest in the project, all right, and he unexpectedly speaks out against it. Upon analysis, you find that the person has high power, he's a politician, but low interest. And if you remember from the power interest grid, we manage stakeholders with high power and low interest by monitoring and keeping them engaged. That is why we select that question. So our explanation, a stakeholder with high power and low interest can disrupt a project if ignored. According to stakeholder engagement strategies, such stakeholders should be kept satisfied and closely monitored to avoid opposition. That's our rationale. Let's go on to the second question. Which of the following are true about constraints in project management? You have to select more than one responses here. So you select all that apply. So which of these are true about constraints? You can pause if you so see fit. Let's see what the answer to this question is. So constraints, they define project boundaries. They can include budget, time, and scope limitation, and they affect what is achievable in a project. So the explanation, constraints define the boundaries of a project by establishing the limits within which the project must operate. They typically include budget, time, and scope limitations and directly influence what is achievable within the project objectives. So that's the correct answer for this one. Let's look at our next question. You're managing a project in which team members report to both you and their functional managers. You coordinate project tasks and timelines, but the functional managers control personnel evaluations and budget allocations. What type of organizational structure are you working in? So I would leave you to go through the question and select the most appropriate response here. All right, let's reveal the answer. So, in a weak matrix. Why do we say that it's a weak matrix? So the question says that your members report to both you and their functional managers. And it says here that you coordinate project tasks and timelines. The word coordinate is the key word here. You have very little power, but the functional manager controls personnel evaluations and so forth. So the functional manager seems to have more power and authority in this case. And that is why we say that it's a weak matrix. In a weak matrix, the functional manager retains authority over budgets and evaluations, while the project manager has limited control over resources and often serves in a coordinating role. So that's why we selected weak matrix. You are working with a newly assembled team on a high pressure project. You notice some team members are disengaged and unmotivated. According to Herzberg's two-factor theory, which action is most likely to improve job satisfaction? So, of these actions should you take to help to improve job satisfaction? Let's look at the answer. We say that you should assign challenging and meaningful tasks. Why? According to Herzberg, you have achievement and meaningful work increase job satisfaction more effectively than hygiene factors such as salary or pay and things that would also provide short-term motivation. So it is best that we assign challenging and meaningful tasks to the employees. Let's move on.
Are you looking for a complete and structured way to prepare for the CAPM exam? Check out the Ultimate CAPM Exam Prep course on Udemy. This course is designed to guide you through everything you need to know to pass with confidence. The course covers all the key topics, includes practice questions, and gives you strategies to tackle the real exam. Plus, you can learn at your own pace with lifetime access. If you're looking for a course that truly prepares you for the CAPM exam, here's why the Ultimate CAPM Exam Prep course stands out. You'll get 23 plus contact hours, more than enough to meet the PMI requirements. We cover the entire exam content thoroughly so you won't miss a thing. You'll have access to practice questions and full-length mock exams to test your readiness. And best of all, you get lifetime access, so you can study at your own pace and revisit the material anytime. Everything you need to succeed is in one place. Ready to take the next step in your project management journey? Click the link in the description below to enroll and get started today.
You need to inform a group of external stakeholders about a policy change. They require formal documentation for audit purposes, but don't attend regular meetings. What is the most appropriate communication method that you should use in this situation? All right, look at the answer. All right, so formal written. All right, this is the most appropriate means of communicating in this case. Formal documentation such as reports or memos is essential for external high-power stakeholders who need traceable records for compliance and governance. It would not be appropriate for us to use here, for example, an informal verbal type communication where you just say something to the person as they pass by, or it would be best for us to use formal written. All right, let's move on. You are reviewing your risk register. What components should you expect to find in this document? And we say here select all that apply. So there are more than one correct responses here. What are some of the components that you would find in the risk register? That is what we are testing here. So let's see. You have risk description, the probability and impact rating, the risk owner, and the risk response plan. All right, do not find stakeholder influence in your risk register. So, by explanation, a risk register typically includes key components such as the risk description, probability and impact ratings, assigned risk owner, and planned response strategies. These elements ensure that risks are clearly documented, assessed, and managed throughout the project. So these are some of the things that you would find in your risk register. You're managing a new software project for a bank that has strict compliance requirements. However, the user interface must go through multiple customer reviews before finalization. Which development approach best suits this scenario? So you have a case where the interface must go through multiple customer reviews before you have finalization. So which is the best method for us to use in this case? Let's take a look. Hybrid. So are we saying hybrid? A hybrid approach is best when you have high regulatory compliance, which is requires more predictive approach is required, but the solution also needs iterative user feedback, right? Which is adaptive, right? Especially for user-facing components. So in this case, we have a piece of software that is needed for a bank. So there would be some sort of regulatory compliance that would be required. So for that aspect of the project, it would be best for us to use a predictive approach. But you also have an aspect of the project where we say that the user interface must go through multiple customer reviews before finalization. And therefore, for that aspect of the project, it will be best for us to use a more adaptive, agile type approach. And therefore, we have to combine the two approaches, and hence the reason why we say that it will be best for us to use a hybrid approach in this situation. We could not have used a strictly predictive approach because we were told that the user interface must go through multiple customer reviews before finalization, and therefore a predictive approach will not be the best approach solely for this purpose. And we could not have used a solely adaptive approach because, as we said before, you have an aspect of the project where you have high regulatory compliance that is required, and therefore it would be best for us to have proper planning and all that is necessary in place to make sure that we fall in line with the regulatory compliance. So therefore it is best for us to use a hybrid approach in this scenario. Your team has just completed a detailed feasibility study and received approval from the steering committee to proceed with a new product line. What project lifecycle stage are you likely transitioning into? So let's take a look. All right. So the correct answer here is to create project charter. So we are moving into the project charter. So after feasibility, which is the business case. So the question say that your team has just completed the feasibility study. The next step is usually to create your project charter. So the next formal step is to create the project charter phase, where the project is officially authorized and resources are assigned. So that is why we are saying that you should choose this response. A client knows what they want the final product to achieve, but cannot articulate the detailed requirements. Which characteristic of an adaptive life cycle makes it more suitable for this situation? So we leave you to select the best or the most appropriate response here, and then we would explain our answer. So most appropriate response here would be iterative development with stakeholder feedback. Why? Adaptive approaches support uncertainty and allow requirements to evolve through continuous customer involvement. So why is the iterative development the best approach here? We say that because the question says that the client knows what they want the final product to achieve, but they cannot really articulate the detailed requirements. So we will have to go through a number of iterations and so forth with this client to be able to get maybe to the final product that they really need. They themselves do not seem to know exactly what they need. So the iterative process would be one that would be best here. So asked to present how cost, quality, and schedule relate in the project management triangle. Which statements are correct? And we ask you here to select all that apply. So there are multiple correct responses here. So reducing cost may impact quality or delay schedule. So that's correct. Scope changes usually increase cost and time. That is also correct as far as the project management triangle is concerned. Quality is a fixed constraint and cannot be adjusted. No, that's not correct. Quality is not fixed. Cost, schedule, and scope are interdependent. That is correct. If you change one, usually there is normally an adjustment that would happen or change that would take place in the other. So these are the three correct responses. All three must remain constant for success. No, that's not correct either. So let's look at the explanation for this. In project management triangle, cost, quality, and schedule are closely interrelated. Reducing cost can negatively impact quality or delay the schedule, while scope changes often lead to increased cost and extended timelines. Overall, cost, schedule, and scope are interdependent, meaning that changes to one will typically affect the others. So that is what the correct response here is. Takes us to the end of this quiz. Now, if you want more of these types of questions, we have a full course, the Ultimate CAPM Exam Prep course on Udemy, where you can get full practice questions like these questions, full mock exams to help you to prepare for the CAPM exam. There's a link in the description section to this video to the course on Udemy. And as I said before, you will be able to find many more questions like the ones that we went through in this quiz and full mock exams to help you to prepare for the CAPM exam. Good luck in your preparation. See you again soon.